The film opens with Nick Dunn driving through his quiet suburban neighborhood on the morning of his 5th wedding anniversary. He heads to the bar he owns with his twin sister, Margot. The two talk casually about Nick's marriage with Amy, and he tells her that today is their 5th anniversary. He tells her that Amy creates scavenger hunts for their anniversaries. Nick receives a call and heads back to home. When he reaches the home later, he instantly senses something wrong. Inside the living room, Nick finds the coffee table flipped, objects scattered, and clear signs of a struggle. He calls the police. Detective Rhonda Boney and Officer Gilpin arrive, and Nick gives them a tour of the house. They notice small clues and a slight attempt to clean something up. Detective Boney finds something odd in the kitchen, a tiny blood stain on the cabinets that someone tried to wipe away. This raises even more red flags. Detective Rhonda Boney and Officer Gilpin walk Nick through a series of questions. Nick answers politely, but his awkwardness and lack of visible emotion confuse the officers. Nick seems increasingly uncomfortable with their questions, making him look guilty without even trying. Detective Rhonda asks her to call Amy's parents and inform. Nick sees his father in the station and drive him back to his assisted living facility. We shift into Amy's point of view through her diary. She was a character named Amazing Amy in his parents' book, and people loved her. She writes about meeting Nick in New York, how he proposed her, their early romance, and how their marriage once felt magical. These entries establish a contrast to the broken reality Nick now faces. When Detective Rhonda Boney and Officer Gilpin come back to the crime scene, a neighbor woman, Noelle, claims that she is a friend of Amy, which surprises Rhonda as Nick claims Amy has no friends. Rhonda tells her that she will meet her in 30 minutes. Inside the house, Officer Gilpin revels that the rent of the house, cars, and even the bar is on Amy's name. In Amy's drawer, Detective Rhonda finds an envelope with Clue 1 written on it. Amy's parents arrive, and Nick, along with them, informs media about Amy's disappearance. He encouraged people to inform them if they have seen or know anything. Nick forces a smile for a photo with Amy's poster, but the smile is taken out of context and turned into a suspicious moment by the media. Amy's parents tell Detective Rhonda about Desi Collins, who Amy broke up with during high school, and he attempted suicide. Rhonda asks Nick about the envelope she found in Amy's drawer. Nick tells her that Amy creates scavenger hunts for their anniversaries. Inside the envelope, they find a poem from Amy, which leads them to Nick's office at junior college where Nick teaches. They find another envelope there titled Clue 2. It mentions another clue about a brown house, but Nick says he has no clue where it is. Rhonda also finds red panties in the office, but Nick is not sure if it belongs to Amy. Nick goes to his father's house and finds Clue 3 there. As he's on phone, Detective Rhonda arrives. Nick asks if she's following him. She asks him if this is the brown house Amy was telling him in the clue, but Nick says it's not. Back to Amy's diary. She writes about Nick losing his job, how much he changed after losing his job, taunting her, spending too much on video games and other things for no reason. The next day, Detective Rhonda asks Nick about a neighbor woman, Noelle's claim about being the best friend of Amy, but Nick denies that. He also spots Desi Collins there, but he leaves shortly. Amy Mother Elizabeth is not happy about how Nick is acting and handling things. The media is also suspicious of him due to him smiling earlier in front of Amy's photo. Everyone has doubts about him. Back to Amy's diary, we learn how both Nick and Amy lost their jobs in the recession and moved from New York to Nick's hometown of North Carthage, Missouri, to support his dying mother. Amy uses his remaining funds to buy Nick a bar. When he asks Nick to have a baby, Nick becomes angry and pushes her. She becomes afraid that Nick wants her gone and might kill her. During night, Nick's student Andy comes to visit him, and it is revealed that they both are having an affair. Nick asks her if she had left her panties in his office, but she is not sure. Detective Rhonda, meanwhile, goes to one of his informer who reveals that Amy asked him for a gun, but he refused. He tells how she was afraid for her life. When Andy leaves in the morning, Margot sees them both and presses Nick, who reveals that they are together now for 1.5 years now. Margot is afraid that if police finds out that, it will be bad for Nick. During Amy's candlelight vigil, Noelle steps forward and tells that Amy confided in her that she was 6 weeks pregnant and that Nick didn't want the baby. The crowd instantly turns on Nick, shouting that he's a murderer. Soon, reporters swarm his house demanding comments. Detectives question Nick more aggressively, asking why he never mentioned the pregnancy. Nick swears they never spoke with Noel, but Rhonda shows him pictures that Noel gave to prove her friendship. Detective Rhonda Boney explains they found signs of a violent struggle, a large amount of blood that someone tried to clean up, and evidence of financial issues. A major dispute between him and Amy, and $117,000 in credit card debt. She also shows him a list of expensive items bought in his name, including a golf club, which Nick insists he never purchased. Rhonda then gets a call confirming Amy's medical records. She was pregnant. At that point, Nick shuts down the interrogation and refuses to say anything without a lawyer. Detective Rhonda goes to Nick's father's house and finds Amy's half-burned diary there. Nick, meanwhile, tries to solve third clue, which leads him to his twin sister Margot's woodshed, where he discovers thousands of dollars of items purchased with his credit card without his knowledge. It is then revealed that Amy is alive, and this is all his plan to frame Nick for her murder, because she discovered his affair with Andy. Everything we saw from her diary was carefully crafted fiction. She befriends her pregnant neighbor Noelle, tells her all the abuse she is getting from Nick, and stole her urine to make it look like she is pregnant. On the day of the anniversary, after Nick leaves, she stages the crime scene. She pours her blood and makes sure she does a poor job of cleaning it so the forensics can find traces later. She also puts her blood on a mallet and hides it in their fireplace. She tosses her diary in the furnace and stores the electronics in Margot's shed before fleeing. To disguise herself, she completely changes her hair and buys some groceries. She pays in cash and checks into a hotel under the name Nancy. She checks her stash of money to make sure it's safe, knowing that paying in cash keeps her untraceable. Then she takes things to a whole new level of crazy by smashing her own cheekbones to change her facial appearance. Amy visits an internet cafe to check the news and gloat about how perfectly her plan is working. She then befriends her next-door neighbor, Greta, and overshares the story of how she caught Nick kissing Andy outside the bar. Amy is shown keeping track of all the clues she left for the cops to find. She also makes an anonymous call to the police to report suspicious activity in Margot's shed. Nick, meanwhile, flies to New York to hire a lawyer named Tanner Bolt, who already knows Nick is being framed. Nick also meets Amy's ex, Tommy, who reveals that Amy framed him too and got him convicted of abuse after discovering his affair. Nick calls Margot to tell her he's going to meet Desi next, and he also worries about Tanner's fees. Margot assures him she'll help financially. At the same time, both siblings discover that the media is now making a ridiculous accusation that they're in an incestuous relationship. Nick sees Desi, who is just as psychotic as Amy. Nick doesn't get much out of him and leaves. He's unable to visit his own bar as the media and curious people await. That night, Amy's money pouch falls by mistake while playing golf with Greta and her man. She starts to feel unsafe in the room at night. Greta and her man turn out to be bandits who assault Amy and steal all her cash, left with no option. She's seen contacting someone using local payphone. Amy then meets Desi, who sympathizes with her deeply, while she continues to play the victim. The next day, Tanner advises Nick to confess the truth on television, as it's the fastest way of letting people hate him and then forget about him. In the makeup room, Margot and Tanner help Nick mentally prepare for the interview. Just before it starts, the reporter uncovers something shocking. Amy and Desi see the same revelation when they watch the naive Andy confessing her affair with Nick at a public press conference. Tanner tries to convince Nick not to go through with the interview, but Nick is determined to get it over with. The scene cuts to Tanner driving Nick and Margot back to home, and Nick looks relaxed. Desi still has feelings for Amy, so he shelters her in one of his safe houses and gives her a tour. He tries to kiss her before leaving, but she hesitates. The next day, she discovers the entire house is filled with surveillance cameras. When Desi appears behind her with new gifts, she senses his obsessive side returning and feels trapped. The following evening, Nick rushes to Margot's house, chased by the media, and watches his interview. Amy watches the same interview with Desi at his place. Surprisingly, Nick does well, admitting his mistakes with shame and expressing concern for Amy. After the interview, Rhonda arrives at Margot's house with a search warrant. She discovers electronics in the shed that were purchased with Amy's credit card and arrests Margot. Nick is taken to the police station with Tanner. Rhonda shows him pages from Amy's diary detailing alleged abuse, but Nick denies ever abusing her. She also shows him the mallet Jim found in the fireplace, which leads Rhonda to arrest Nick as well. Desi starts visiting Amy more often. The next day, she hatches a new plan. She soaks the lower half of her shirt in red wine to make it look like she has been sexually assaulted and pretends to cry in front of the cameras, just moments before Desi arrives. Meanwhile, Nick and Margot are bailed out thanks to Tanner's influence. He drives them through the heavy crowd. Meanwhile, Amy enacts her plan. She smears herself with red wine and waits for Desi to arrive. When he shows up, she lures him to his bed, then slashes his throat with a box cutter, pretending she is defending herself. Nick finds Amy lying in a pool of blood outside the house while the media takes pictures. She falls dramatically into his arms. When she wakes up in the hospital, she puts on an innocent act, blaming her abduction on Desi, her obsessive lover whom she claims she had to kill in self-defense after he assaulted her. Rhonda secretly doubts her story. Nick takes Amy back home, with everyone following them. He tries to interrogate her, but she refuses to answer, until she makes him get in the shower to confirm he isn't wearing a police wire. Then she admits to all her schemes and reveals that she had dumped her failed attempts to punish Nick on Desi to cover her crimes. This makes Nick hate her completely. The next day, Amy makes her first public appearance with Nick, forcing him to smile and act happy in front of the cameras. Nick shares her confession with Margot, Tanner, and Rhonda, but he lacks the evidence to prove it. Back home, Amy manipulates him by being sweet. She tries to convince him to sleep in the bed with her, but he doesn't trust her anymore. The following day, Nick is ready to expose her during a home interview, but Amy plays her final card. She shows him a positive pregnancy test, tying him to her and preventing him from revealing the truth. Angrily, Nick pushes her against the wall, now fully aware of her manipulations. He surrenders and does not expose her during the interview, while Amy happily announces her pregnancy. Margot tears up, realizing Amy has once again trapped Nick in her claws. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to my channel for more recap videos.